Age Tech Innovators.
Hello. Welcome to Age Tech Innovators, the podcast where we explore how technology is transforming the way we care for our aging population. I'm Monty, your host, and each week we chat with inspiring leaders who are making a real difference in the lives of older adults, sharing innovations and ideas that help support and uplift those who need it most. Join us as we work together to build a brighter, more caring future for everyone. Now, let's dive in. So, I'm honored to be with Amy today. Amy, run me through who you are and what you do in 60 seconds.
Thanks, Monty. Well, it's so nice to be here and thanks for having me. So my name's Amy Dougan. I am the Telecare Manager at Hanover Scotland Housing Association. I've been in this role for about 15 or 16 months now, since last May 2023. But I've been at Hanover for about 12 years, 12 going on 13 years in different roles. In my Telecare Manager role, I manage a team of telecare operators and an admin team, and they take calls from our almost 20,000 customers across Scotland with telecare alarms that require assistance, whether that's a medical emergency, it could be a repair to their housing property, whatever they need, that my team is there to support them to live independent lives at home. So we do that for Hanover's customers, but we also do that for a number of external customers as well, local authorities across Scotland. We do it for 3 local authorities, including Shetland Islands Council, North Ayrshire Council and Argyll and Bute. And we also do the service for other housing associations as well.
Amazing. A lot of impact and a lot of responsibility. You mentioned that you started in this team fairly recently, but you've been within Hanover for 12 years. What was the transition moment? I'm always curious about how people end up in these areas which are actually supporting people.
Yeah, so to be honest, a little bit by accident that I ended up working in this industry. So I've always worked in the charitable sector. That's been quite important to me. So I started with Hanover in 2012 as in their communications team as a communications officer after working in events previous to that. Yeah, so I had a couple of years doing comms for Hanover and understanding, who Hanover was as a housing provider and a care provider, which was really interesting. And then after a couple of years, there was an opportunity that came up to become business development manager. And it was in that role that I really got to understand the telecare and tech side of things. So I got to explore the different types of technology that can support our customers, work with our telecare customers and understand what they need and what they're looking for and how the industry is changing. And it is a really exciting time now that that there's loads of changes. So it's a really exciting time last year when the opportunity came up to go for a Telecare Manager. I did it on an interim basis and was made permanent last month. So yeah, it's just a continuation of my learning and understanding of the telecare industry. And yeah, so that's been built over the years and I'm still continuing to learn and progress in this role as well. But it's a really exciting time to support our customers in their journey.
You mentioned that working in charitable spaces has been important to you. Can you say a little bit more about that?
I think it's really important to work, spend a lot of time at work. And for me personally, it's important to find a job that is of value, to do something that matters and something that resonates with you. And for me, Hanover Scotland, when I first applied, I thought, what a fantastic mission, to help people feel safe and secure in their own homes and live independent and happy and fulfilled lives. So that is something that really stuck with me. I think we can all, we all know, certainly older people, that's our main target group. We all, we have grandparents, our parents, friends, neighbours, and it's important for all of us to take care of our elderly population. And we're all getting older. And I know, as my parents age as well, it's always on your mind, how you want to live in your later years, healthy, independent, supported. And, as I say, it's a really exciting space is, housing and services for older people particularly is a really exciting space to be, thinking about our desires as we age and the changing population. It's a really important space and I'm sure we'll come on to it, but there's a lot of challenges as well, and we have to be creative in the way that we address the challenges of an aging population.
So to follow that thread, what do you see some of the challenges are to fully support or to support this generation in as effective way as possible?
Yeah, so I guess what's evident and has become even more evident following the pandemic as well is the pressure that's currently on our services, care services, housing services, affordable housing, and the NHS and our health and social care partnerships. Budgets are squeezed, and that's a huge challenge for the space. Is how do we do more with less? And I think technology is absolutely the way that we can do that.
So you've seen an overview within Hanover for the last 12 years and more recently within the last 2-ish years of telecare within Hanover. How do you see this challenge of trying to do more with the same amount of resource or with even potentially less resource? Has this been something which has been top of mind consistently, or has it only really been since the pandemic that you've seen this shift?
I think it always has been, it's something that I think the pandemic kind of brought even more to light. And I feel like I think the focus has been more, during the pandemic, I think we realised how important our NHS, our health services, our care services are, as they continue to deliver services throughout the pandemic. But also it certainly feels as if service users, our customers' expectations and their needs have changed and more complex. Getting the services in place is more difficult, is more complex in itself. There are other challenges in terms of the different services speaking to each other, and I include Telecare in this, different databases, different records, customers having to go here for this, but there for other other things, other services. So I'm really keen for this idea. You've maybe heard of it, Monty, is that kind of personal data passport, health passport, where data can be shared, amongst whoever the customer, whoever the person wants their data to be shared with. So they're not having to tell the same story and share the same personal details with lots of different, health providers. I really like that idea. But yeah, I mean, I think it was always, our services have been, and budgets have been tightened over the last few decades, and we do have an aging population. I got a little bit of a few bits of data collected just to get an idea of.
Yeah, I would appreciate that. That'd be amazing.
Yeah. So Scotland, I can speak for Scotland. Scotland's population anticipates a 50% increase in over 60s by 2033.
2033.
Yeah.
Wow.
And by mid-2043, it's projected that 22.9% of the population will be of pensionable age compared to 19% in mid-2018. So there's just, I'm sure the case is the same, very similar in England, although I know a lot of people do come to Scotland to retire, and, young people move away to places like London. So there is definitely maybe more of an aging population in Scotland, but it presents obviously challenges on our services, and people are living for longer, and as such they have more complex health needs and care needs. But it also, as I mentioned earlier, it presents a lot of opportunities as well for what we can deliver and how we deliver them.
I appreciate you bringing some statistics to the session. It's really, really great to hear. In terms of, so we've mentioned some of the challenges and some of the opportunities. The centralized or personal data passport sounds really cool. I think that would be super helpful, especially because there's so much time spent trying to communicate between different services. Which other opportunities do you see in this space? Because you're so clued into what's happening.
Yeah, I think, as you know, Monty, we've been working together with Yokeru and trialling some proactive calling solutions. So I really want for us in the UK to follow more in the footsteps of the likes of Andalusia in Spain, who've switched from a very reactive service like we are now, reactive in our telecare model and our care as well, in terms of responding to people's needs. I'd like to switch to a more proactive and preventative model like they have. So they've gone from very much a reactive service to an 80% proactive and 20% reactive model. And I think, we need to be more reactive in both health and care and in housing management as well. So we're trialing different proactive calling technologies, as I say, and these are to kind of more proactively check in on people. Is there any unsupported need that we can support them with? Is there, there's adaptations potentially that we need to look at. We're also trialing environmental sensors within homes. So things that can measure things like temperature, moisture, things like that can identify issues with properties, early on, so that people don't, that properties and people don't end up in a place that they are in a crisis. So that would minimise the number of reactive calls that we get in terms of people reaching crisis with their health or with their property, and ultimately deliver better outcomes for our customers and us as well. And ultimately free up resources as well for our colleagues in the NHS and health and social care partnerships.
I really liked how you referenced the happenings or the proactive services within Spain. It's interesting to see which countries have strengths and which countries look to learn from other countries. What do you think listeners could learn from Scotland in terms of your approach towards telecare?
I think Scotland has a lot, there's a lot of positives that we do quite well up here, and sometimes we don't give ourselves enough credit for the good work that we do. So yeah, I mentioned there about health and social care partnerships, so our health and social care are integrated in Scotland. So that is very much a positive thing that hasn't happened in a lot of places elsewhere across the country. I think there's still a lot of work to do in terms of that integration internally in health and social care partnerships, but it's a good start. So they're starting to link up. We also speak a lot, there's Scotland's not that big. So we do have a good network, a strong network. Myself as a Telecare Manager, I speak to a number of other Telecare Managers, other alarm receiving centres, both local authority based and more private ones like ourselves. So I think we have a good network. We've also got the Scottish Government's digital office as well, which is a great resource for all of us in the telecare industry to look to for guidance and support in terms of lots of things, but especially at the moment the analog to digital transition, which is a big focus and a big challenge at the moment. So we do a lot of things quite well, but as ever, there's always room for improvement, isn't there?
Yeah, but I think the listeners would be really interested in the closer working relationship between health and social care, because definitely within England, there's a lot of hope and attempt to merge these or improve connections, but we don't see it really happening. How do you see that having a better working relationship between health and social care, how does that improve the well-being of the end users and also improve efficiencies of the team?
Yeah, I mean, health and social care, just, it makes sense for them to work together, to have a joint approach to the well-being of our population, and housing as well plays a huge part in that. And sometimes housing can be sidelined, but people having safe and secure and, a nice home environment is super important as well. So I feel, that health care, housing it all really should be as joined up as possible to deliver better outcomes for people. Yeah, and I feel very strongly about that. And again, the database things, I know that there's still a little bit of work to do within our health and social care partnerships, and some of them, that I think there has been a lot of challenges in terms of bringing them together, using the same systems. And yeah, I think it benefits the person, doesn't it, when they've got one source of truth for that particular person. There's more opportunity for joined up thinking, for knowing what's going on in this in this area, and also knowing what's going on in this area, and having that data to provide a full picture of a person, or a fuller picture of that person in terms of their health and care. And I think that is just so useful. And Telecare, we have a lot of very valuable information that I wish we could, that's another challenge for us over the next few years, is we'll be working on, how can we integrate more with health and social care partnerships? How do we use that data? how do we support them in using that data and merging it, or, at least having access to that to get that overall picture of an individual. And I guess the other challenge is, we'll have loads of data. We have a lot of data at the moment, but then also going digital as well, we'll have even more data. But what do we do with it? And who's looking at it? Do we need more data analysts in the industry? Probably. Do we need more specialists, health specialists, looking at the sort of data that we might collect, be that through proactive calling or telecare conversations? If someone's having lots of falls and they're coming through their telecare alarm, what does that mean? What does that indicate? Or a lot of reassurance calls or confused calls. How do we identify what the need is, and then how do we then plug that gap as well and work together with health and social care?
I love from my time in my visits up to Scotland, I love the collaborative nature. You have the Scottish Digital Office. As you mentioned, everyone talks, and I've talked to a number of different providers in Scotland, and everyone all knows each other. It's so nice.
We do.
This means that you have a really nice understanding and overview of the different providers and different ARCs or housing associations. You must see of this group some who are innovating and bringing in new initiatives, and some who are potentially a little bit more hesitant. What do you think will happen to those who are not actively, like you are, adopting innovation?
Good question. I think on that point, I'll have to quote Charles Darwin, being someone that has a biology degree. So yeah, what did he say? It's not the strongest of the species that survives, it's the ones that are most adaptive to change. And I think
that's such a good quote.
That's it. They won't exist in a few years if we're not innovating, if we're not continuing to change, if we're not moving to the digital world and trying new services, then they'll be left behind. Customers will look elsewhere and find other services and other providers. So that's absolutely it. So we just need to, as an industry, as providers, we need to continually change and challenge ourselves and try different things and different approaches, and not just rest on our laurels. And certainly in telecare, it really has been, with the old analog telecare systems and services, it's looked the same for the last 40, 50 years. So it's time for a big change.
How do you think it's going to, because as you say, everything has looked the same for the last 40 years. So we have there's lots of strength, but then the adaptability is up for question for some organizations, or it's that there is more pressure to adapt. At what rate do you think we'll see this changing? Do you think it's the next 2 years, next 5 years, next 10 years that we're going to see a real upheaval after we shift to digital?
That's a good question. I mean, it's still, we don't know exactly what it's going to look like, do we? But certainly at the moment, I feel that there's, people are slowly trying out different new technologies. Even the digital alarm systems, they don't look too dissimilar to the analog ones, the ones that we've used for the last 40, 50 years. They might look a little bit more sleek, a little bit nicer. I certainly don't want to see any more red pull cords in people's properties if possible. I think they're really horrible and ugly, and I think, I certainly wouldn't want them in my house. So I think there's far more exciting things that we could be using. So I think people are kind of, certainly up here, I feel that people are kind of sticking a little bit to what they know at the moment until we can cross that digital bridge, and we'll go into the digital world using things that we're kind of used to, that customers are used to, that employees are used to. But then let's start mixing it up. Let's start trying different bits of equipment. Let's try Amazon Alexas to raise calls. Let's try those ambient sensors that can see if someone has had a fall or hasn't moved, or there's a concern that can sense what's going on in the environment, what the temperature's like, what the lighting's like. Things like even just being able to turn a light on for someone if they've had a fall in the middle of the night, or if they get up in the middle of the night, so that they stop. Ideally, don't have a fall in the first place. So yeah, I think it'll be slow, but then I think as soon as we get some traction. And I think sometimes we're all just waiting on, oh, what are they doing over there, or what are they doing over there? And yeah, and properly take that leap. So I think maybe not in the next 2 years, but maybe in the next 5 years, I would like to see it look a lot different.
So if we fast forward 70 years, and so we move the clocks around 70 years, Amy, you wake up and you look down and you suddenly are an elderly person, maybe 90 years, 100 years away. What would you like your day-to-day to be like? What technology would you use? How do you see technology supporting you in living personally?
It's difficult to know what technology is going to look like then, but we all at the moment, our phones have become our lives, haven't they? That everything's on there. I use some apps at the moment to track my health and well-being. And I think building on that, we don't want to have lots of different devices to make sure that we're okay. And I think we can have it all in one place. So that would be the ideal for me. God knows what our phones or whatever devices we might use in 70 to 100 years will look like. I'll probably be dead at that point. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how things evolve in technology over the next few years, because it's wild to think even 10, 20 years ago what things look like, and what you can do now versus what you could do in your Nokia 3310. It's so different. So I think we probably can't even imagine what's going to be possible. I would think, my house, wherever I live, would, maybe have things built into the environment that will sense if anything's changed with my habits or with my health. There's so many things that exist already to track people's health and well-being. I think they're just all kind of quite separate, I think, at the moment. And I think it's maybe kind of bringing that all together and having a holistic view of people and how they live and what their health is like. And that, can help support all elements of people's well-being and health, can't it? So yeah, who knows? I think is my answer really, is who knows what it's going to look like. But it's very exciting.
I appreciate that. It's so interesting to hear people's answers, and it's really lovely. I think ultimately you're right. We had no idea that the world would, at least from a technology perspective, would look like how it does today in terms of TikTok and Instagram and AR and VR, all these things. So 70 years time's up for grabs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I hope I'm here. I'm here.
You will, if not, there'll be an AI version of Amy.
There might be an AI version of. Yeah. That's a good point. That is a good point. Yeah, and I think again, reflecting on the pandemic and previous to that, I think for our customer group, for older people, I think people quite often would write them off as not tech savvy. They think, they probably don't have a phone or a tablet device or what have you. But that wasn't true before the pandemic. A lot of them did or were keen to get online and use devices or had them already. And I think throughout the pandemic, I think a lot of, we saw a lot more of older people using video calls to speak to loved ones across the country and abroad. And I think that has, in a way, it has advanced us, and it's helped our cause for the use of technology, because I think everybody during the pandemic really saw how technology can connect us during a time where we felt isolated and lonely. So, again, there's another challenge that we faced is loneliness and isolation. And how do we combat that? And how can we help support that through technology as well? Because I'm sure Monty, the isolation and loneliness really contributes significantly to people's physical health as well as their mental health. So it's something that we're really keen at Hanover to address and see how we can support building those connected communities and support people with their how they interact with the community and their social well-being.
Yeah, it's super exciting to see how much reach and impact you have right now, and how much you can in the future, or you will in the future, have going forward. I think there's a stat that I learned or read somewhere and that is being lonely is as bad for your health as smoking 20 cigarettes a day. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what I read somewhere.
I have heard that as well. I'm sure I've heard that same fact. It's really harmful. It's really harmful to people's health, and yeah, it can weaken their immune system. Things like anxiety and depression obviously becomes a big risk. It's a big factor in cognitive decline as well, and dementia. So, and Alzheimer's disease. So yeah, it's really something that is absolutely worthwhile investing in. And we're lucky at Hanover, we've got a captive audience in our, in the people that live in our houses and our residents, and also our Telecare customers as well. So we have a big opportunity there to support people with their social well-being as well as their health and care. So
I appreciate that. I'm very excited to see how it progresses. My last question today is for people who are listening. We'll have two types of people, likely, or of the people who listen will have two types. One type of person is people who are just interested in the topic, who are either considering using technology for themselves or to support their loved ones. What piece of encouraging advice would you say to people who are getting started on the journey of using their own Telecare?
Don't be afraid of it, I think would be my advice. Don't be afraid of technology. It should be simple to use. If it's not simple to use, then it's not been made right. We always expect our customers to be able to understand what we're trying to deliver. That's a key element of it. And yeah, I know we get a lot of calls from people that have maybe triggered their alarm by accident, or, they're in a panic, they apologize, really sorry. It's actually really good because we're able to reassure them and say, it's absolutely fine, Mrs. Smith. Your alarm's clearly working, and glad to hear that you're okay. And call us anytime when you need to. I think that's really important to just get past the fear factor, because I think that's quite a lot of the reason why people don't want to use the equipment. They're a little bit worried about using it. So just test out different things if you need to, see what works for you, because everybody's different, aren't they? We can't put people in a box. All of our customers are completely different, have different wants and desires, different lifestyles. We have, our customer group is so amazing and diverse, and some are still working, some of our older people that live in our sheltered housing accommodation, they're still working. Some are retired, some are very social animals, some not. So I think it's important that whatever you get, it's right for you and it's right for your lifestyle, and it works to support you to live whatever life that you want to lead.
I appreciate that. Don't be scared, and find something that's simple to use and supports you in your life. And for people who are listening who are either innovators or at university or even just younger, thinking about entering into this space, and I've been referring it to as the age tech space, but it's more like the health tech space is what I'm learning or starting to understand. What would you say to these people who are interested in joining, for example, your team or setting up their own thing?
Yeah, do it. Come on board. It's a great space to be in. It's really exciting, and it's a space that's only going to expand, and there's going to be new opportunities. So I think it's a great time to join, to get involved, to experiment, to innovate. Yeah, you're right. I love age tech innovators, health tech innovators as well. I mean, it's health for all, isn't it? I mean, our main customer group is generally older people, but it's really anyone that has a need that technology can support. So yeah, it's health for all, and it's a really meaningful space to work in as well. It's really rewarding. That's what a lot of my team would say. Why do you do the job? Because, they love it. They love speaking to our customers. They love feeling valued and feeling like at the end of the day, they have changed people's lives, or in a lot of cases saved people's lives, because we are the fourth emergency service. Telecare is, it's a really important and sometimes overlooked service. So yeah, I would encourage anyone to get involved in the industry. It's a great place to be. It's a really open network, as we were talking about earlier. It's a good place, it's a good supportive place to work, and it's really exciting. So yeah, that's what I'd say. Come on board.
Well, I'm hyped. Amy, it's been a pleasure. I've learned a lot, and thank you so much for your time today. Do you have anything, any other notes, anything else you'd like to share? But I just want to say a huge thank you for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's been a lovely conversation. Yeah, and it's good to reflect, I suppose. It's always nice to kind of step away from the day-to-day and reflect on what is it that we actually do, because I think that's really important, isn't it? Is you know, you and I working in the technology, health technology field, is we need to take that step back and go, this is amazing what we're doing and what we're trying to deliver, but also reflect on how can we do it better and how can we continually improve, and what are our customers needing, and you know yourself, Monty, it's really important that we speak to our customers, isn't it? And we understand their changing needs and understand how we can always improve and just keep our ears to the ground and you know, just evolve as we learn and grow. So I think that's what I'd maybe end on reflection, is just that continual improvement and working with our customers on building great products and services.
Boom. Yeah, I appreciate that. Very powerful. And we I had a Darwin quote as well, so definitely very motivational.
What more would you want?
Yeah, exactly. Well, Amy, thank you so much. It's been lovely, and I'll chat to you soon.
Thank you so much, Monty. It's been a pleasure.